Hello, everybody. Welcome to our talk show. On the agenda today, we'll be discussing the book Soul by Patricia McCormick. Corey, what's your opinion of the book?
My opinions on this book is it was very heart-touching. If you notice in the book how she was very determined to make the money that her family needed to survive and to give clothing and food for the infant baby that they had. And it was just very moving for me because of the events that she went through being sold into prostitution. Now, what are your opinions on the story?
Well, I agree with you on how it was really touching, and I also think it's very empowering because she stands up for herself towards the end of the book, and she stays positive throughout the really hard times, like when she was sold and when she had to work in the prostitution stuff, and she just stayed positive, thinking, like, keeping in the back of her mind that she was raising money to send back to her family so they can have the food and water they need to survive.
Now, this book doesn't have, like, Lakshmi the little girl. She's not a god, but there are some people or characters in this book that are praised and represented as gods. It's the wealthy, the rich. Now, to Lakshmi, she was very poor, so money, if you noticed, was very hard for her. Their family could barely put food on their table every day. Now, they could even barely pay the tax collector.
Yeah, like in the story, she said that the rich people sort of had like the golden roofs on their house, like they were rich enough to like get a roof made of gold, which is kind of expensive.
Yeah. And if you see they praised them. Like, to go to the city was amazing because it was where the rich people lived. But when they got there, it wasn't like they thought. But it was, sort of. Like the technology that they have, they never really seen a TV before. They were just like, oh, it's an image that's switching and moving. You know what I'm saying? Like, did you see that in the book?
Yeah, the city didn't end up being like what she thought it was as well. Like, she didn't really see the gold roofs like she thought the houses had, and like she thought the people would be like nicer people as well, and she didn't really find that in the city. She found that the people were really like to themselves and like, yeah.
And for the strengths and positive qualities, now, if you notice in the book, she was very smart. She knew how to write, and if you noticed, that was very rare to find a girl that knows how to write because their education was very different. Now, everyone knew, like, you're very smart if you know how to write. Did you see that in the book too?
Yeah, she tried to prove to her auntie that she knows how to write and she knows about different things, that like what she learned in school by her teachers.
And if you saw in the book, she wanted to present these unique qualities to auntie because she had to please her. She had to make her auntie feel that she was worthy enough to be a maid and to help out the family that she was going to be going to.
Yeah.
Now, if you saw, she didn't just have good qualities. She did have bad qualities as well. She was very, very, very gullible. Now, when someone told her something, she could believe it. When they told her that when they paid off her debt, she'd be gone. She calculated her debt that she had to pay. She calculated the days she would have to stay there. And when she found out that she paid it off, she could go free. Now, what did you think about when Maxima told her she'd be there for the next 5 years?
Well, Lakshmi thought that she, like you said, that once she like stayed there for like the minimum of 2 years, that she would be gone and go back to her family. Well, Mumtaz is really like playing her and lying to her, so like tricking her so she can stay longer. So
now let's talk about their culture. Okay, so their culture. About their culture. They believed in the god Lakshmi, same name as the little girl. Now, Lakshmi was the goddess that would bring them good fortune and good harvest. Now, The festivals I thought were pretty unique. You know, they light up lanterns to provide the way for the goddess Lakshmi. What did you think about it?
Seeing that in the little village they had so little, they would still put give their everything to this goddess, because they would bring them rain and sun and like you said, good fortune. So I thought that was really neat.
Yeah. Now another part of the culture, what was represented pretty much all around, was gender equality. Like girls and representation. They were very not disrespected, but they were treated like property, pretty much disrespected. Yeah. They were looked down upon, that you were worshiping them, that they were the main priority in life, that if you didn't go to their needs, then you would be kicked out and thrown out.
Yeah, like in the beginning of the story, it talked about how the mother and Lakshmi had to wait until the stepdad went to sleep so they can eat the food and have a little fun, other than working day and night, and then taking care of the little brother and preparing food for the stepfather once he comes back home, because he's never home during the day.
Now, following along with the culture, they didn't just have these goddesses and gods that they worshipped. They had to survive. That was not, goddesses and goddesses were not the main thing on their mind. They had to survive. Now, they had to do many, many things to survive. They had to savor, they had to ration food, they had to split up everything into portions that they could live off of, knowing that in the next day or two they'd have something for tomorrow. So, when rain comes, they're sitting buckets and buckets outside their door so that they can just collect as much as they can, so they'll be able to have something to drink for the next day or two. Now, when these dry seasons have come, they were planning disaster. They were rationing food so small that they might not even have to eat for 2 or 3 days, and that could lead them to death.
He's not here. He's not here.
So now, something that someone,
Everything okay?
after prostitution, after they were captured in prostitution, something that saved them, someone that saved them, it was the police. Now, the police officers in the story, some were bad, some were tricked. They were paid off by the people that were keeping the girls in, that were getting
In the
the money.
happiness home.
Yeah, when that cop came up to the door and they were like, oh my God, there's a cop, I might be saved. But then, Montez, the owner, handed him money and he went off. It was because she was paying him. But then, there was other policemen in the town that really wanted to save girls from this tragedy.
But they didn't know that they were in the house.
Yeah, so they had to go in with sort of an insider. And that's when they got raided by the police and they took and saved all the women in the house. So, what I heard, culture values. Now, let's talk about that for a second. Now, in this book, I thought one of the main, one value that I recognized was the religion. How they relied on this goddess to take them and give them things that they needed to survive, like good harvests, so they could provide wheat, bread.
Yeah, there's a part in the story where it showed them going to a shopkeeper so they can have a praying circle or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was to pray for the rain to stop, because it was raining a lot, or to bring rain so they can harvest their crops and feed their families. But yeah, they would pray a lot. In another part, Lakshmi prayed for an American man to come again, and she prayed and prayed and prayed until he did come. But unfortunately, it wasn't the American man she wanted.
Yeah, it was sort of a false hope.
Yeah.
But what I found interesting was the lamps that they placed. They placed lamps all around. So
Lanterns.
Yeah, lanterns.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would provide a way, pretty much showing Lakshmi where they had to go, like the crops, the houses, give them good harvest. Now, we both noticed in the story about how their culture was messed up, in a sense. Now this would be shown as the women being treated terribly.
Yeah.
Terribly. How they couldn't, if they didn't do something for the men, they could be thrown out and stripped of their clothes, their hair cut off, like that girl in the train. When they came off the train, they saw this girl.
She tried to escape and they shaved off her
Head,
Yeah.
her hair, not her head.
Yeah. Girls were treated really poorly, well, girls and women in general were treated really poorly. Like, they had to do all the work, and the guys, like, the stepfather in the story, like, would leave every day to gamble, like, all their money away. Like, the little money they had, he would, like, gamble, and he'd never, like, win anything. He'd just, like, lose everything they had until they would, like, they would, like, starve for a few days, because they had to feed the baby, because kids, like babies, were like, with the weather conditions, like there were like different seasons where the kids would die from different reasons. Like, they would get fevers, and then they would like be so sick they just like die.
So, moving on to this topic, nature. Now, there was different forms of nature in the story, as you could tell with the dry seasons and the wet seasons. There was very little vegetation except for what they grew in the areas, because the rest was unneutralized, like it didn't have water, so it couldn't grow. So it was a very desertish area, and they were on a mountain. It was very beautiful, but also when you got a close-up look, it was very deserted in a sense. Very little habitation. Now, she was brave. Now, for the cultural value of bravery.
Okay, so there's a change in scenery, but when we left off, we were talking about bravery.
Now, many aspects of bravery that I saw in this story, if you agree with me, was when she, even though she knew that the things she was doing wrong, she did want to get out. But she knew that she would have to pay off her debt first. So she was brave enough to not completely give up and stop doing what she was doing. She still went along with it just so that her family could have the money to survive. Because if you remember, they were very poor.
Yes.
They had no money, so doing this would help her family survive and would get them food, clothes, shelter, everything that they needed to survive. Don't you agree?
Yeah, she thought about her family a lot. They were like the main like motivation to get like for Lakshmi to get through her day, or else like if it wasn't for her family, she'd just freak out and like wouldn't know what to do. But she learned and like remembered everything like her mother taught her, to keep like to be sane and like to get through her day.
Yeah. And the last cultural value we have was beauty. Now, in this book, beauty is represented in multiple ways. They had their dress, they had like dresses, shoes, makeup, and like pretty much everything you could think of. Their hair. They had to be suitable for the customers.
Which was the men coming in.
Yes. And they needed to be beautiful, or else they wouldn't get pretty much paid.
Attract customers and like get paid from them.
And if they didn't get paid, they didn't leave the house.
Okay, so we're done with cultural values, and now we're going to discuss heroic archetypes. So throughout the story, Lakshmi is a good example of many heroic archetypes. She doesn't represent all of them, she represents like a good chunk of them. Like for example, like lover. Lover is usually noticed or known as like love between a girl and a boy, but in this case, it's love between a girl and her family, which is like what we were talking about earlier. Her family motivates her to get her through the day. Like she loves her mother, and so she would go in her mother's footsteps to become like a good wife for the future, or become like a good daughter and like a good person in general. Right?
I agree.
Like she was also like a good warrior example, like hero archetype. She was a warrior because she had to face a lot of battles, like throughout the story, like the traveling and like the men and Mumtaz and like the girls in the happiness home that weren't always like good and nice to each other. Like she went through like a lot of emotional pain and physical pain with the men, don't you think?
Now, yeah, I agree. The two main things that I believe was the emotional pain. You know, she left her family, so she couldn't just go to her mom and just start talking about because she didn't know. Yeah, she didn't know anybody. Also, physical, because she was beaten for things that she would do that weren't even really considered wrong.
And she was basically raped and like she lost her virginity to some guy so she could like
Make money.
make money, exactly.
Also, one of them, she's a warrior because she and her family's a warrior too, because their whole culture, their whole kind of village was considered a warrior because they had to deal with the effect of not having good food, not having any water, and they had to thrive. They had to like go down to the river every day to get water, but when the dry season hit, they had to wait for rain. And rain was what they were dependent on. Yeah.
She was also like a female hero, like a feminist and stuff, because she, towards the end, she was like fed up with everything and she was just like, I'm over it and I want to go home. And so like, you know, the whole thing of the American and Mumtaz discussed that like you can't talk to the Americans and like get in contact with them because they're like fakes and they like lie. So yeah, so she met an American and
So she called you on it, don't be angry
he's
with
like,
her.
you want to go to a place? And she put her trust in him to get her out of this place. So she would secretly like go behind everybody's back and like come up with an escape plan and tell like she told one of her friends, but she couldn't tell anybody else, or they would like tell Mumtaz, and she could be
Severely punished.
severely punish Lakshmi and like even like throw her out, but like being thrown out is a lot worse than like getting beaten because she could like get out with no home, no food, no friends, no family, no clothes, no shelter, and it's like scary in her situation.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing was when you were thrown out, your hair was cut off completely, and that would kind of be the distinction between you ran away from your husband, sort of thing, and you'd be despised and you'd get rocks thrown at you.
Yeah, people would like
disrespected.
shun you in a way that you wouldn't want to be shunned, I guess.
Like you said, with the guy, she'd make a plan. It was very interesting how she would try and like escape using different methods. Like she would say, oh, she'll hide a card. Like she hid cards, and she would like back to the beginning of the beginning when we talked about her being gullible. She believed Mumtaz because Mumtaz was trying to make it so that they would not want to leave.
Yeah, she was trying to like make it out like the Americans were like the bad people in this situation when they were, well most of them, because there was one American that just didn't really fit with that. But when in reality she was like the bad person and she was trying to keep all the girls in the happiness home and not get them like to leave, and because that's how Mumtaz makes money as well, and she wants the money like coming in and not going out.
Yeah. So like she was so gullible that even when safety was practically in her hands, she still believed Mumtaz and thought it was a complete trick. Like, we'll bring you to this place, you know, we got the food. They actually had pictures of the girls they're okay, they're fine, they have shelter, they're happy, but she completely ignored it.
Yeah, when the first American came and talked to Lakshmi about like getting her a clean place to live, she was a bit skeptical too because of what Mumtaz said. But then he showed her like the pictures on like his phone, and she believed him then. And then then she started coming up with an escape plan and praying that he would come back, or like another American like him would come back. And she would hide these cards with like his information on it and like what he does like as a job, because like that's kind of what he does. And she would just like want him to come back with like the police that, yeah, with the people in the police that actually like care for the girl's safety. In the story, there's also situational archetypes being demonstrated. For example, the journey would be, like the journey as in the situational archetype, would be when Lakshmi was told by her stepfather that she was being sent to the city to work as a maid, to receive money for her family back home so they can survive. But like we all know that's not the case here, because she was being traded in prostitution. And another would be like the initiation, and this would be like when she lost her virginity to, I think his name was Habib, something like that. What did you think of that part?
To me, that was probably one of the most, not the scariest, but kind of the worst part, because, you know, it affected her because she didn't want to lose it that way, in a sense. She didn't want to be a part of what was going on, because that was the initial something's wrong here, you know what I'm saying? That was the point where she was like, I'm not a maid anymore, I am a prostitute.
Yeah, like when she lost her virginity to this guy, it was when like she was officially in the prostitution business, and she could get the men in for money. And since she like went in a virgin, like to the happiness home, like Mumtaz felt like that she wouldn't make or bring much money, so she kind of did that. And I think it like really hurt her emotionally rather than physically, because she already like back home she already had her husband like planned out, like because like you already know who you're gonna marry when you're younger. So she was thinking in her head, okay, she's gonna marry this guy, her friend back home, and then they're gonna like grow up, get married, and then they're gonna like
Have kids.
yeah.
But
So
like what you were saying was, so pretty much being a virgin was sort of worshipped in the house, because they knew that people would pay more if you were a virgin, because
they'd want to be the one to like lose or like take your virginity. So oh yeah, so like Mumtaz like planned this whole thing, so like I think it's like a known customer, because he like paid more or something to take her virginity and to pay her.
Thank you for tuning in. This is the end of the talk show.
Don't forget to
Read.
grab a book at your closest classroom to read. It's really interesting and I like it.